Welcome to Zero Hit Points.
You either planned that and it's
Wow.
great, or you just had a serious brain fart.
This is going to be a mess of an intro then. Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of July 12th. I'm Ryan Miller, and I swear to everything I hold dear that last week, when I introduced you using the title of the film, I said, The Perfect Weapon himself, Matt Amberg, I thought to myself, hey, that's a good hook that I can use in the future, since I had stopped doing quotes from the movie because they kept pulling quotes that other people were pulling and it just felt stupid. So I'm not joking. Also hadn't picked what this week's movie was going to be, but am going to stick with the hook I figured out last week, ladies and gentlemen. The Drunken Master himself, Matt Amberg.
I do have an alcohol problem. It is not as funny as we hope.
It's just a happy coincidence, I promise.
I'll
keep doing it just to show.
No, it's good. I drink. Sometimes I drink and I text you, and then I think to myself the following day, did Ryan know I was drunk then?
Oh, is that what's happening?
No.
Is that what's what was the
Not always.
Some of this is making sense now. I feel like you texted me. I mean, I feel like I have an abnormally long memory. So sometimes when you're like, hey, look at this movie, The Night Comes for Us, I'm just like, oh, he forgot when we talked about it already. I don't expect alcohol's involved really at all.
Yes, alcohol is always involved.
Okay.
Well, So
on Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week and invite you to do the same and then come talk about it. Although I'll say, when we pick a month and we dedicate it to something like action movies and I do my deep dives, I feel like there's almost a benefit to watching the movie after our podcast. So I'm not going to judge either way.
Okay.
That particular thing.
That is incredibly kind of you. And I, once again, if you can go ahead, review us and note our benevolence towards you viewers, that would be great.
We don't judge. This week, it is Drunken Master. This week, Matt does have a synopsis. And this week it is
Drunken Master, coming at you an hour and 51 minutes, written by the way, I forgot to preface this, welcome to Name Butcher City, baby.
I had a thing in my notes too, where
Yeah.
I was going to say we're going to do that.
I am going to only refer to people as... Nope, not going to refer to anybody as anything. I'm basically only talking about this movie in theory.
I, on the other hand, will just say them as I think they're said incorrectly. In fact, no, I'll still say my preface. You go ahead.
I've said it now, so I'm free. I am allowed to say it's like
preface.
It's like whenever you say "with all due respect," then you can say literally whatever you want.
Literally anything,
and it doesn't matter. It's totally
with all due respect.
And if the other person gets mad, with all due respect, they are an idiot.
No judgment.
Written by Lung Xiao and Si Yun Ning, directed by Wu Ping Yun, starring Jackie Chan, Si Tin Yun, Zhang Li Huang, Dean Sheck, and Linda Lim. Here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Drunken Master. When a young man who is not afraid of trouble is beaten and humiliated by assassins after abandoning his martial arts teachings, he returns to his famed Drunken Master to complete his training and get his revenge.
Excellent. And the ways in which we are going to murder names, by the way, are not only limited to mispronunciations. I know that there's a confusion with where the given name comes with the surname and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Well, why it's confusing is that some outlets respect that and others do not. So what happens to me when I read up from many outlets is that I have no idea which one's right and which one's wrong. So
right.
I apologize for that.
Yes.
But also, I had no concept of the idea of a courtesy name. Have you heard of this before? Yeah, apparently, I think it's out of practice for the most part. But certainly when this film was made, and in the times it's referencing, we're going to deal with some historical figures here. When a young man, or sometimes woman, obviously there's an issue there with being a woman,
Yes, thank you. I'm glad somebody is finally addressing it. Some white man finally has the strength to address that.
Oh boy. So, but when they turned 20-ish or something, or came of age, they received a new name, and it was called their courtesy name.
Dude, that's rad. I want that.
Yeah, that's so too. Actually,
I would have been super into changing my idiot name.
So I apologize for mispronouncing, getting the order wrong, and not knowing what is and is a courtesy name, because I believe it's inappropriate to refer to somebody by their non-courtesy name after they've taken their courtesy. It's like calling them a child or something like that.
So basically, we are a discourteous group, but please understand that we're speaking in reverence, just really, really poorly. Our reverence only goes so far when it comes to research, people.
All due respect.
All due respect.
No
and
judgment.
That right there, we have now eliminated any ability for us to be negatively commented upon. So,
okay. Well, my apology is sincere, even if it comes before.
All due respect, anyway, Ryan.
All due respect. So I want to say I had still an issue choosing this film, which when I did tweet out that we were going to do it, I mentioned that it might be a surprise to nobody who's been listening, because I feel like I even mentioned this movie last week. But I honestly was not positive which one I was going to choose for the next go around. I think we narrowed it down to Jackie Chan, so I kind of knew I was headed in that direction.
Yeah.
But I did look up a lot, obviously, of what he's done. I kind of wanted to steer from some of the more well-known stuff, which I don't necessarily think I succeeded in, actually. But maybe when you talk about Jackie Chan popularly, you'll hear more about Super Cop or Police Story and stuff like that. You know, like
for me, yeah, I typically hear depending on it's there's like an age group, right? Like so there.
Yes,
I feel like around my age group and maybe a little younger, it starts with Rumble in the Bronx,
or sometimes lamentably is that a
it is now. And
that is,
and I love it, but you're gonna say Rush Hour.
Yes, I am. Yeah. So in fact, that might have been mine, actually. Oh gosh, I'll have to look up when did Rumble in the Bronx definitely came out before Rush Hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
Please?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rumble in the Bronx was actually my first one, but Rush Hour is certainly the one that had people looking up older Jackie Chan stuff, even though, my gosh, that was so late into his career, technically, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But never, ever, you know, I understand why you would say lamentably, even as a joke. I get it. But when you start thinking about things like, okay, yeah, if it could have been any other Jackie Chan movie, it probably would have been like, that is the coolest introduction. But if somebody did see that movie and go, that guy is rad, and then goes back, I have to say, I know you were just being a giggler. You were just you were being the second level Batman villain, the giggler. But to that point, like, you got to kind of love that our perceived movies that are like, and Rush Hour, don't like that movie. I don't find it
Oh, really?
It's okay. I guess I should say it's fine. It's not something that I go back to and rewatch and think this was such a great like moment in time movie.
It's been a long time for me, but I at this point, without having rewatched it in a long time, will say I like it.
Sure. I mean, and I might like it more than I'm remembering. I never had a fondness for that series, though. Like, that was never.
Oh, certainly the series. No, like I don't even think Rush Hour 2. Did they ever make a third one?
They sure did.
Yeah. Okay. So all of the lamentably in that statement comes from it being from Brett Ratner and Jackie Chan having such a long and storied career before that movie even was thought up. You know,
it is unfortunate that is the movie that got him to like new Hollywood heights.
And speaking of Hollywood heights, my gosh, it does also maybe hold a special place in my heart because I was in LA at a show. I wish I could remember who it was. It was, let me go through, Lagwagon, maybe The Bouncing Souls, maybe
it was Agent Orange.
Guttermouth. Yeah, who knows? But it was at the Palladium, I think it's called, or the Palace. I can't remember. They changed names as well, which is not far from the Hollywood. Okay, it's not far. I legitimately scratched myself with my middle finger, and it looked like something different to Matt. No offense, all due respect. But they were filming Rush Hour like down the street or around the corner was the Hollywood sign that he hangs from in that film.
Yeah.
So he did that, got down, and then there was a crowd around him that followed him to his trailer. All I could see was the crowd. And then somebody down the line, word finally got. They're like, oh, it was Jackie Chan who's going back to his trailer. And I was like, oh, cool. So anyway,
but I totally get that. I get that whole the sentiment to that. Yeah, for sure.
It's stupid, right? Yeah, we all have our little stories in it.
That right there is an awesome story. That's a great reason to be like, yeah, I like, especially, and we're getting so.
I was in rush hour. I was there.
We're getting so off track here
on set.
But I love the idea that like that movie, regardless kind of where anybody else sits on it, will probably be something that you'll always be like, no, I enjoy that movie unironically, because I have this attached memory to it.
I don't know if I want to go that far, but
yes, no, you ironically like that movie.
Strangely enough, actually, I should have told this story first, because obviously I knew who Jackie Chan was at that point while the film was getting made, so I must have already seen some Jackie Chan stuff.
See, there you go. You were probably the deepest fan in that crowd.
I was fairly deep in the crowd. So I decided
yes,
after I also went through My Lucky Stars. Actually, I went through the whole. So there's a trilogy of movies that aren't technically a trilogy. They're kind of like the Cornetto trilogy. They feature the same actors and with different names sometimes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with Sammo and Jackie. The reason I didn't choose them is because Jackie features it's kind of a Jackie sandwich if Jackie was the bread, which is why that analogy doesn't make sense, but you get it immediately. In that Jackie Chan literally shows up most of the time at the beginning and end of these movies. The first one was Winners and Sinners in 1983, and then
terrific title,
My Lucky Stars, and then I feel like the one I hear the most about, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars. But yes, while it does contain some good Jackie Chan stunts, you will often see these movies on the lower end of the best top 10 Jackie Chan movies or whatever, because it just doesn't feature him for that much at all.
Sure.
But I still wanted one with Sammo, so I was real close, but then I didn't. And then obviously I remember Drunken Master was directed by Yuen Woo-ping, and also not their first collaboration apparently. I for a hot second considered a movie I've never seen before, but I heard has also done well. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. Have you ever seen that?
No, that's the one I think I did. I think I texted you about that saying I did not.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never heard of this movie. I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard just by going through, but I haven't seen it yet. So I thought about maybe that, but it didn't. So Drunken Master, we're doing Drunken Master. That's where this is all going. We're doing Drunken Master.
Yeah, and I just want to interrupt you one more time to sidetrack everything, because
why not?
Why wouldn't I? But I have this image in my head right now, because you're looking one direction at some notes, then you look at the other direction. I imagine your setup right now is like one of those crazy conspiracy theorist people where you've got like Jackie Chan's picture in the middle and then a bunch of like strings going out to different people. Yeah.
I have yarn going from several different computer screens. It's real stupid.
Like you've got them actually pinned into the plastic. I don't know why you did it that way, but
it was stupid at the time, but I'm trying to get it all together here. Yeah. So
it's the digital age.
You've seen Drunken Master before, right?
Long time ago, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's probably been a year or two for me.
Okay.
As well, so.
Let's put it this way. For me, this is like a 20-year plus.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
either way, unforgettable.
What's funny is how much of the movie I did remember though. Like there were sequences that would begin and I'd go, oh yeah, this is when this happens and that, and it would happen and it would go through and it'd be, oh yeah. And of course, I don't know. Maybe this is one of those fun things that you might have more historical knowledge on.
I might.
But the final battle that he has where he fight, it's an amazing fight scene. That whole sequence that leads into it's great. The fight, the choreography there is amazing. I don't know if that is like considered something that's aped a lot, or if it's something that's like just one of those overly like loved sequences. But that whole ending fight, like that whole bit was something that I absolutely remembered, like Totally. It was well, as I was watching it, I was like, I can't believe how much of this, like, this is, I remember everything that's going to happen.
Right, yeah.
And it was great. I was so jazzed about it. Like, it was so much fun, but none of it really clicked in order until I was watching the sequences happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it is a loaded question. I do have a lot that can answer it.
Okay.
I will say that I don't know if necessarily that sequence has been aped. It probably was. I mean, famously, Jackie Chan always had the issue of people, sniping his movies before they even came out.
Sure.
A lot of the times, the reasons his sets were so closed is because if anybody even heard this is the type of movie he was making next, they would come out with a knockoff before they could even get the real one together.
That's crazy, right? Like,
yeah.
that's imagine having, just for a second, imagine being that idolized and appreciated and loved that every movie studio is like, well, we've got to ape it before it comes out because otherwise we're not going to make any money.
The Transmorphers of its time.
I will say, he was the human GoBot.
He was. No, well, he was the Transformer.
Yes, he was the
out of him. Yeah,
yes. He was.
So
I'm glad we nailed this down.
The things that did exist before, let's say, that I do have in my notes is number one, drunken boxing. Like, I was never, I will admit, 100% positive that a lot of this wasn't created by Chan or Wu Ping on their own.
Sure.
But no, drunken boxing is an ancient art form. I guess it, more often than not, shows up as part of another system, like of an actual, some of my terminology is going to be wrong as well for this stuff. I believe a system is comprised of several forms, is how it goes.
Sure.
So a lot of times drunken boxing would show up as a form of a different system or something like that. So it's never technically its own altogether kung fu style.
Okay.
So the history is fuzzy because it's not, like, nobody knows for sure. It popped up at different times in different places. There's a written account, blah, 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 blah. But the two kind of main legends that you hear about are from the Buddhist tradition, which is the story of a dude that killed somebody, fled to a Buddhist temple to avoid prosecution, but while he was there, refused to not drink, which Buddhist monks weren't allowed to drink. And when he was asked to leave because of that, he said no and fought everybody for it, and apparently put down like 30 monks while he was drunk. And after that, the leader was like, that's amazing. Let's make this a thing that we actually teach. So that's the Buddhist legend. The other one comes from Tao, is a Taoist or Taoist, depending on what you read, or I'm sure however it's mistranslated or whatever, alphabet, blah, blah, blah. Has more to do with the 8 immortals, which exist without being drunk. And if you read the Wikipedia for Drunken Master the film, it accounts Yuan Wuping as possibly the creator of the Drunken 8 Immortals. So I'm not positive when it comes to this, but it's certain that the movie is taking from the Taoist tradition more than the Buddhist one.
Sure, it certainly seems like it.
When it comes to drunken boxing, the film itself is based on the life of Wong Fei Hung, which when I say is based on the life of, I realized that Hong Kong has been doing the Ip Man thing well before Ip Man was a thing, right?
Sure.
Which is where they take this historical figure and do some wildly popular movies that very,
the name
slightly follow some of the life stuff.
The name isn't the same, but neither is anything else. The autobiography.
Well, yes, in fact, in this movie, even I don't think he's ever referred to as Wong Fei Hung. They call him Freddie Wong.
They call him Freddie, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
speaking of which, you watched the dub version, right? Is that what you're about to say?
I did.
Okay, which might have been my fault. I think, I don't care, arrest me, I gave you the dubbed version. Is that correct?
It does. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's okay. The first time I saw it was definitely the subtitled version, because I remember getting it we got it out of the foreign film section. But I have to say that the dubbed version of this makes the movie like way funnier. It was and it's already funny. It's already, like, even with the subtitles, like the subtitles still do the movie justice in terms of the comedy that they're trying to get across. Because understand this movie is meant to be a comedy action.
Yes. So, in fact, to interrupting, I'm sorry.
Oh.
To put this in context of the action movies that we're doing for this month, because we're doing Action Movie Month, which I think is what we'll end up calling it. Because
I like July Kwando personally. But,
okay, all right, okay.
but that's
There
just
we go.
me.
This is a comedy. I spoke a little bit how I'm going through the King Hu, which are more kind of epics. Crouching Tiger,
Right,
was an homage. Blah blah blah. I'm going to say blah 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 a lot, but hey, it gets me through a lot of notes that I won't actually speak out loud.
blah blah blah.
I mentioned,
with all due respect,
Chia Ling Lu, who did the 36th Chamber of Shaolin movies, among many others, Dirty Ho, who I've actually seen Dirty Ho. I didn't get the 36th Chamber, but that is kind of a not an offshoot, but it is, while King Hu was doing his really serious stuff, the Ling Lu stuff is very much a lighter tone to the Kung Fu movie. And if that's maybe a half step towards the actual Kung Fu comedy, which is where we get what you're talking about right now. Yes, by this point we are full on. This is a straight up comedy. Like it's filled out with like timpani drums, when somebody gets hit, like the baong, or even like xylophone stuff when somebody's getting hit, with a lot of piano rolls here and there, like it's darn near Buster Keaton-ish.
This is Looney Tunes, man. This is such a cartoon. But the point, like, so where I was going with this, if I may digress into my interruption, is that the subtitles, that's right, I remembered, the subtitles were still very funny, and the music sets it off. But boy, oh boy, the voice, the dubbed is hilarious. Anyways, I digress back into your
where was I
interruption.
digress? Yeah. I think I was on about the form, which I do.
Yes.
In fact, I'll say one more thing about it, because most of this is just me, like, as I go down so many rabbit holes on this stuff, just being fascinated with one thing after the other. This doesn't have even so much to do with, it does have to do with Drunken Boxing, but it's not unique to Drunken Boxing. But Drunken Boxing is a form that emphasizes the role of Jin, or Fa Jin, which everybody's heard of the 1-inch punch, right?
Sure.
So Fa Jin is this idea of drawing strength from the Dantian, I believe, the chi centers. That, in fact, let me just read. I'll just read this. In terms of biomechanics, Fa Jin is a matter of utilizing body alignment and coordination to form an extremely efficient kinematic chain. The body begins in a relaxed physical state, which is then quickly accelerated in a coordinated whole body movement. I don't know why that's so fascinating to me, but the idea, especially of, it even states that the idea is to keep your muscles as soft as possible. Like you are channeling more than you are. This is why Drunken Boxing is considered an internal martial art. It's because the strength comes from the quiet explosion of this kinematic chain, as opposed to brute forcing stuff.
Yeah.
So
no, it's super interesting, right? Like I have always found stuff like that fascinating, because it's one of these things that you read about in a way and it sounds supernatural, but then you go and you can find literally thousands upon thousands of people that can prove how it works, and just be like, oh yeah, here, let me just break 100 bricks. Like,
and I think that's probably why it's not unrelated, obviously, because tell me you don't see some of that in the movie here.
100%.
Right? In the choreography, in the execution.
So okay. This, I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you, because this is kind of one of the things that I wanted to specifically touch on. It's actually in my notes.
Perfect. It's like we're getting to the movie, you could say.
So there is a stark difference between the Jackie Chan fighting we get at the beginning of the movie to the Jackie Chan fighting we get at the end of the movie. And one of the things is, like, at the beginning of the movie, it's very much the Jackie Chan that you've definitely seen before if you've seen really any of his movies. There's like a staccato movement to it where he's always one step ahead. He knows, he gets hit here and there, but it's this kind of, there's a flow to the staccato, but it's very staccato, where it's like, right?
And you'll see that in a lot of lose in the 36 chamber in Dirty Ho. That's kind of the evolution that I'm seeing there from King Hu, at least. King Hu had a lot of springboards. He had a lot of kind of graceful movements and stuff like that.
Sure.
When we get to Dirty Ho and 36th chamber, there's a literal rhythm. It's very often kind of 4/4, like there's not a lot of syncopation, you could say.
Sure.
It's kind of just they move from one to the other.
Yeah.
You're seeing a little bit of that here, but it's more advanced and possibly running or being recorded at 22 frames, which was an old Hong Kong trick they would do. They record at 22 frames, they run it back at normal speed, and it looks like they're moving a little bit faster.
They're moving significantly faster.
I think there's some of that going on here, but
that's a terrific fun note about just filmmaking. That's so cool. Yeah. But at the beginning of the movie, like I said, he's very staccato. There's still smoothness. There's still a lot of grace to what he's doing. But when you get to the end of the movie, and I think this is where something that it goes probably underappreciated in terms of the skill that it would take in general. But you consider all of the stuff that Jackie Chan does in like throughout the film, and then you get to the point where he is supposed to be like as loose boned as possible, right? Like he's drunk. He's right. when you're drunk, like one of the most common terms for getting drunk is getting loose. And to see his version of this is what it looks like when I'm so drunk that I can't stand up, he has to be so incredibly balanced and skilled with his movement to make it look that way. He has next to no bone mass, that he is just kind of like a floating body of liquidy something,
which is the heart of the form. The amount of skill that it takes to look like you have no skill, right? To look like you're drunk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's insane.
It's insane. And then to wrap it back into how you describe like the whole body is relaxed, and then it turns into this one massive like force. You can see it happen, and it's so incredibly cool to see, like when he gets into the fight at the end. Even when you see him early on with the beggar So I think is his name.
Yes, that is actually, I'll get my trivia out of the way early here, the director's son, or sorry, the director's father. The Yuen Wu-ping's father is the Drunken Master. If you don't consider Jackie Chan the Drunken Master, he is Beggar So in this movie, the actor.
That's great. But even with Beggar So, like he does the same thing. Like as an older man, he still looks amazing when he does his like kind of that boneless maneuver, and then it just looks like it's fantastic. And I love that this movie, it probably is taking it to an extreme, of course, because it's film.
It is still a movie, yes.
But the idea that they're taking it to that cartoon level, and it still looks so good, and it's so like you have to give those actors just so much appreciation for the skill and the balance and the technique and the grace that they have to make it look like they have none of those things.
It's firing on every cylinder that's ever been.
Yeah.
And this is a fairly early example of not only, okay.
Here we go.
No, you're right.
No. I love it. I'm into it. Like,
well, this is 78, man. This is like Yuen Wu-ping's still doing stuff. Jackie Chan is still doing stuff. Fitting that we begun this show with a Jackie Chan movie, and now we're ending it with it. That was a joke I was going to do earlier on. But yeah, dude, this isn't even like, I mean, Yuen Wu-ping's been around for so long and done so much. The fact that he was doing it this darn well so early in his career, like it's no freaking wonder. And since you've got to the film itself, let's keep going. Mentioning the technique he was doing before he's drunken techniquing, it's Hung Ga, which is the form that Wang Fei Hung in real life, in history, historically, systematized himself. It's kind of the way he made a name for himself. His dad was one of the 10 tigers, I believe, so he's coming from the Hung Ga tradition a ways down. It's also kind of a revolutionary aspect. Like I said, Wang Fei Hung is one of those folk heroes like Ip Man, but sorry, you have a quizzical look about you.
I do. What are the 10 tigers?
I didn't. Thanks for choosing a rabbit hole I didn't enter, Matt.
Edit this out.
It's some folk. It's something or other. Yeah, he was
Nothing happened. I asked nothing.
kung fu.
I said, what are the 10 rings? And then I said, because I'm interested in Shang-Chi, and now we're thinking about this. And Marvel movies. I watched Black Widow this weekend. We'll talk about it.
Oh, man. We've got so many shows lined up, everybody.
We do.
So
it's amazing, actually.
This movie itself then delves into this idea of Wong Fei-hung kind of as a Thor type, if you will.
Okay, I will.
Son of a master who is a jerk. He picks fights. He picks a fight with his unknown aunt at the time and hits on his cousin, it turns out.
Yeah, so it's Thor.
You're right. Okay, so it's Thor-ish. Is banished to train with his uncle, who is the Drunken Master, who is Beggar So, and through that learns humility. Also through he gets his butt kicked by this wandering assassin who's been, we see at the very beginning of the film, contracted to kill Jackie Chan's character's father.
Oh, it's so cool.
But we don't know that's actually a flash forward until later. At least I didn't know. Didn't even remember, actually.
Yes, also.
Yim Tit Sam, or Sam, Tit Sam, whatever. Keep that in mind, I guess. I'll
but he had a cool nickname, and I can't remember what it is. Like the
Thunderfoot.
Thunderfoot, that was it.
Yes,
Love
sometimes
Thunderfoot.
Incorrectly translated as Thunder Leg, I guess, which did show up in my subs at one point.
Yeah.
Yes, Thunderfoot. Who's contracted to kill his father, and that's what the final fight is in the film that we mentioned already, is that the rest of the story is basically Jackie Chan gets beat by him in the middle of the movie, which severely depresses him, so he decides to take his lumps and lessons from his Drunken Master uncle and becomes the master himself. There's this beautiful, I believe it's right before the third act, where his uncle's teaching, Beggar So is teaching him all of the different forms by way of the Drunken Eight Immortals.
Yeah.
And we see Jackie Chan perform them as they're being narrated, and it's kind of the best montage I've ever seen that's not a montage. It's a choreography montage that's set to these wild stories and folks, immortals, that by the time we get to that final fight, that's what he pulls out. He's pulling out these different... Oh, I should mention, by the end of that montage, he refuses to learn Madam Ho, is it? Miss Ho's form, because it's too feminine.
It's too feminine, yeah. Which ends up being hilariously wonderful at the end.
Well, yeah. In fact, Beggar So at that moment is like, it's not feminine. He's like, yes, she's a woman, but she's strong, and tries to teach him, but he still refuses to learn it. And then by the end of the film, as he's working through each form, Thunderfoot counters most of them. The flow to that entire fight is a thing all on its own.
And it's
crazy.
Great. It's one of the fun things is it goes back and forth between him and Beggar So.
Yes, who's vowed to stay out of the fight. He's like, you got this.
Yeah, and we get it's the Mr. Miyagi thing, right? Where it's the it's fun to go for me anyways. I enjoy the flow of you're getting this good fight going, and then you get the jump back to the master who's saying, here's what you're gonna do next, and then he does it, and it's just like the psychic connection between the two, figuring it like, it's great. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, in fact, to show you what Karate Kid was stealing from,
totally.
This has a lot of that. It has that dynamic between the master and the student. It has Jackie Chan spends most of the movie just doing these chores. And then I want to say also right before the third act actually is like, why aren't you teaching me your special form? And he's like, I have been, you idiot. So
wax on, wax off.
In fact, that's right before the montage I was talking about.
Yep.
It's got it all. It's very possibly invented it all, but at the same time I feel like we're speaking about it in such reverence terms. It's hard to still understand how much of a comedy it is. Still, while being so technically competent and wonderfully choreographed, like, it's just nuts that it all comes together like it does.
It's goofy fun that works in every level, right? And I got to do the big shout out to Linda Lim. I love that early fight between her and Jackie Chan, but where
his aunt. That's his aunt.
That's
right?
his aunt. Yeah. Where she, like, her movements and the costume that she's wearing, just delightful, wonderful. And I love the whole back and forth. And then I love the the bit where she's talking to his father and he's sitting there like going, oh no, don't look at her. She can't see it's me. Oh no. And she, it's just such a cheesy, perfect, some punk attacked me. If I saw his face, would I know him? Of course.
And she already knows. Yeah.
It's just great. Like Linda Lim had these amazing facial expressions, this mischievousness about her that was it was great for the role. And I loved seeing her. And she's not in the movie a ton, but her but the moment she's in there, like, she totally stole those scenes for me.
Dude, I mean, the entire cast, seriously, like, it's dumb at this point, again, to talk about how much of a find Jackie Chan was, but he's this impossible physical comedian, gymnast, acrobat, just whatever. Like, the stuff he does, it's part of the reason this film could be elevated past, I haven't seen a lot of the 36th Chamber stuff yet. I've only watched Dirty Ho from Ling Lu, so I don't want to, bad talk him yet, but Jackie Chan seems like a huge part of the reason that the genre itself advanced as far as it did, Well, I mean, especially I think for American audiences, because, like, when you think about Western audiences in general, our movies are such big exports that the stars that come out of Western film are universally, like, they're known worldwide. But that's not the case when it comes to Europe and Asia, and even South America. When it comes to the US, we are very insulated when it comes to some of this stuff. So for us, we need to attach a lot of things to very specific people. We need for kung fu movies to be super successful in the US, we needed Bruce Lee. We needed Jackie Chan to introduce us to, and I don't mean this in the way it sounds. It's going to sound way more negative than it is, but to a lesser extent, we needed Jackie Chan to introduce us to Jet Li, or to other people, to other Asian martial artists that are super well known in Asia and have been for decades, and they come over here and they're it's like, oh, right,
that guy was in Lethal Weapon 5, yeah, but he was also in freaking 100 other movies, right,
yeah.
So
speaking of Jet Li, even Jet Li also plays Wong Fei Hung in Once Upon a Time in China. That is his character,
Jet Li, baby.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, you've got to, I think Jackie Chan, much like Bruce Lee, that lightning in a bottle actor that was able to cross boundaries, and then eventually, it took him longer probably than he needed, than ever needed, but Jackie Chan introduced a lot of people to these movies and brought over, and then paved the way for other people too, just like Bruce Lee did before him. And I mean,
yeah, true. And thank you very much for mentioning Bruce Lee. He's an obvious, like, Jackie Chan, very much a reaction to Bruce Lee. All of his comedy stylings come from a lot of what Bruce Lee didn't do. Like, I remember the first interview I saw with Jackie Chan, he would talk about how, Bruce Lee would hit and then go, whoa, or something like that. And Jackie Chan would hit and shake his hand like, like,
yeah.
That's his whole style distilled. He's like, what if Bruce Lee, but I didn't do any of the super cool stuff. I was just a little nerdier afterwards, like,
which brilliant, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
Like he found the exact niche that he needed, and that worked for him, that works as him, and
it's perfect for him. Yeah, no, It's just, like I said, much like this movie comes together in just an impossible way with all these seemingly disparate styles and freaking kung fu and comedy and all that. Just, it's great stuff. I don't know if I have much more. I would talk about the final fight, but I feel like we did that already.
Yeah, I admittedly, the movie has, again, the choreography is great throughout. You're going to get some really wonderful fight sequences. It all leads up to this. Like, this is a movie where every fight scene before it really does build up to just a terrific finale fight, and that doesn't always happen. Sometimes
It does not.
this is a movie where you kind of get this combination handful of stuff that Jackie Chan is just so good at, and it's so funny, and it's sweet, and it's just fun. It's a fun movie. It's got some fun cinematography in it. The music is super like it fits, like you said, with the timpani drums and the piano rolls and stuff.
That's the music. Yeah, it's more sound effects almost.
It does. But it's fun. This is very much to me a like it's similar in many respects to the movie The Villain with Kirk Douglas and Arnold Schwarzenegger, in that it is a Looney Tunes movie. It's the Villain with Kirk Douglas and Schwarzenegger is Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, essentially.
I don't think I've even ever heard of it.
It's a cowboy movie. It's a really early Schwarzenegger movie, like 78 or 79 or something. Huh. It was actually, fun fact about that movie, the first movie Beth saw in the theater. Yeah, weird. But the movie is just so funny, and this is so good, and it fits Jackie Chan, and it's 110% worth a watch.
I wish I knew, culturally speaking, how much they talked about farts, because there's a lot of lines and I don't know how it's being translated or how close it is or whatever about farts. So I'm like, was this the Blazing Saddles of its time? Like, did they do this a lot before already? Or
it's a great question, right?
I don't know. I'm curious about the cultural impact of farts as jokes and just in general.
It seems like many cultures, like our own, find them to be quite funny.
I also don't want to shortchange. You mentioned Yuen Wu-Ping's, I think, camera work, didn't you, or something about that made me think about it?
Yeah. No, I think the cinematography in the movie is
cinematography,
delightful.
That's what it was, yeah.
It's wonderful cinematography that fits the movie so well.
Yuen Wu-Ping, and I don't know how much. Again, I feel like I'm right where I could have been watching the 36 Chamber stuff and had a more informed opinion about this, because certainly even with King Hu during those action sequences, there's lots of zooming going on, right? Like that's the thing. So I was looking for some of that, and it's certainly here, but for the most part, Yuen Wu-Ping comes out in stages to show the action. Like, he'll start close up, and the zooms aren't into somebody's eyes. There's a few, but they're out as the action continues in different parts of the camera, and it's still Hong Kong style. Like, he's still from a distance. We're seeing the whole thing. It's not shaky cam. He's not cutting out any of the action. But I was a little surprised.
It's more restrained.
It's definitely what it seems like when you're zooming out, right? Because going in seems maybe a little more dramatic, even though it's still a fast movement. But yeah, no, I wish I knew how much of that was his own thing and how much he was pulling from history, but I don't necessarily. But in any event, he's really good at it.
I like it. Drunken Master, great movie.
So, she's giving this movie stars is an impossible feat all on its own, but I'm gonna do it because that's what I'm good at 99 stars
out of 96.
Thank you. So that's Drunken Master. Definitely go watch it.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could be a part of it.
Next week, I don't know, in a surprise to nobody, I haven't picked yet again. Do you, as by way of multiple choice this time,
love it,
want to stay in Hong Kong or come back to the US?
I'm good either way. I like
dang.
So admittedly, you need to understand that I've seen plenty of kung fu movies, but I could not tell you what a majority of them were because they were like on TV. So it was one of those like, okay, I turned it on and it was already on. And then the action stuff that I got super into, that I grew up with, was the overt American, the Jean-Claude Van Damme, like that stuff. And a number of like, there's a bunch of other stuff that got spattered throughout, but I'm good either way. Like, I'm having fun with these movies. I enjoy martial arts movies, kung fu films.
Right.
So,
all right. I think we might come back to the States because I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do for the fourth one, which I believe is the last. Again, I haven't looked up how many Mondays I got here in July, but
however many you want.
Okay.
Because I have a movie also that I definitely want you to watch.
Oh, well, is it on my list already?
No, I doubt it.
Oh.
It's probably a movie you've never heard of.
Do you want to say it out loud or do you want to save it for secret time?
Well, secret time.
Okay. So come back next week for whatever anything ends up being, whether it's Matt's secret movie or another one from, I think regardless, it's going to be from that list I posted on Letterboxd. So if you want a real heads up.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Also, I think I put out my first, so I've been kind of building, I went through all the Godzilla movies, doing my little reviews, which I'm actually enjoying. It's been a fun exercise to do short form writing, which I am terribly, inefficient at, let's say. Like, doesn't exist to me. I'm going to sit down and stare at something for an hour if it's going to be one sentence.
I understand.
So I've been having fun with that, made it through all the Godzilla movies I've seen, and did my first not Godzilla movie, which I guess I could talk about for the rest of the show, but I feel like you've mentioned recently and has nothing to do with action movies whatsoever. Are we doing a rest of the show this time around? Matt looks at his list.
We can. I know. I was looking at just the time. We can. I've got my list is huge.
Oh,
my rest of the show list. Like I can.
Strange flex, but
I can meet you in any direction you want to go.
Well, this is okay. This is a unique direction to say the very least. The Letterboxd review I did and finally tweeted out, which I will do by way of course from here on out when I do one of those, was American Movie.
It is incredible.
You've mentioned it recently. I think you've rewatched it recently with Beth.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that Beth enjoys it quite a bit.
Loves that movie. It's one of her favorite documentaries.
I've never seen it before.
It's delightful, right?
It's darn near amazing. Like it's this is going to be the hard part, is not just reading the reviews that I've written now, because I'm going to say basically what's there, but hey, that's how it all works, right? It all feeds into each other. You come here for the live version, you go there for the written version.
Yeah.
It's entertaining no matter what because of these guys in this film. And if you haven't seen American Movie, it's about, this will tell you nothing, but it's about a guy trying to make a film. You know, his
super low budget.
Seriously, how do I explain it?
It's a movie about a guy living in a small town in the Midwest who wants to desperately make movies. That's what he loves. And he doesn't have any real specific training. He just knows that he wants to make movies. That's it.
But you never get the feeling that he's not smart about it. Like he is a smart dude, arguably the smartest of his group, as he kind of brings them all under his spell.
He at the minimum, he has a vision and he knows how he wants to execute it. Yeah. And the movie is about that. And it is
absolutely, until maybe the last 5 minutes when it's one of those things where it's like I said, entertaining throughout, and it tells a beautiful story, and you get involved with these quote unquote characters. And then at the end, it shows you like 5 minutes of footage from this actual movie that he's been trying to make. For the majority of the film, you see him trying to make a different movie so that he can make the movie he actually wants to make.
Right.
And at the end, they show you footage of the movie he actually wants to make that they shot 10 years ago, right? He's been trying to make the movie he wants to make for 10 years. And it's him with all these same friends, you know, noticeably 10 years younger, very closely out of high school must have been, you know, like that's one of the terms I've stuck with after staring at the review for an hour, is that twilight time in between your teens and your 20s where all of your dreams could come true. You know, like you don't even have a question most of the time. You're like, you know, like I'm looking at my college career, you know, and choosing film studies and history because I liked those things at the time, you know.
Right.
But what did that matter? I'll just make movies by the time I'm done with it. You know, like
duh.
It shows me that footage and I'm instantly in that time, and it's phenomenal. That movie is I'm bringing a lot to it probably, but I think there's plenty there.
I don't think so. I think that this movie, like, even if you don't make movies, this movie should resonate. Like, this movie it's a great documentary that is a human story about just people. And the great thing about it is that it's not made to make fun of these people. It's never there's nothing in this about like it's funny because they are funny and they are amusing people, but it's not funny because of anything that's out of their control, right? Like it's I mean, you can laugh at them because they are kind of backwoods, and that's certainly funny.
you, right? That's not this movie. At no point did I think the movie was making fun of these guys.
Right.
I think it's aware of some of the situations and lines, the way it ends the scenes, when it ends the scenes. Like, it's absolutely aware of how you should smile, but it's not in a mean way.
It's not malicious.
Yes,
it's not malicious. Yeah. No, I love American Movie. I'm really, really glad you watched it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Man.
I could talk a little bit more about, I actually did end up watching My Lucky Stars, and I, like I said, have seen Dirty Ho, but I want to save Dirty Ho for when I've actually seen 36th Chamber too. So I have a couple Ling Lu movies to speak of. My Lucky Stars is worth a watch. I'll just say that much. It's the middle movie in that make-believe trilogy I mentioned beforehand. And if you're not up on your Samo, like, I just love Samo. I love Samo, and this is a great Samo.
You're the Samo. You're the Samo Bamo.
It's really good.
All right.
So
cool.
That's all I'll say for my rest of the show. What you got with your big long list, you?
Well, I was gonna mention some stuff.
You're not required to. I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to do. Consent is the podcaster's
no. It's fine. I've got
something.
We've kind of gone through. We've been finishing up. So we watched Black Widow this weekend, which I think we're gonna do. We're gonna do a show on, and we'll talk about.
I think so.
I have notes. I have a copious amount of them. More notes than I have had for a film in a great deal of time.
Interesting. I guess I'll watch it.
It's Beth and I have had a few conversations about it over the past couple days.
Hey, that will be let's bring our wives' thoughts into this one, let's say.
Sure.
Into that show.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Did I mention already that I rewatched Birds of Prey?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well, okay. Now I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember here.
Was it via text, or did you talk about it here?
I don't remember.
I think it was text.
Yeah,
yes.
I did though.
But it's a rewatch, so what?
It is a rewatch, and
we've talked about it before. I mean, by that.
Yeah. I guess I'll just be real quick about it. I really the more I've watched that movie, the more I like that movie. That is a super fun movie doing what it does. I really like it. I understand their specific gripes about it, and I have my own specific gripes about it, but at the end of the day, I really enjoy that movie. It's fun, and I truly, Margot Robbie owns Harley. That's just that at this point. She owns.
She knows it.
She does, and I love it, and I love that for all of the dumb idiot things that Warner Brothers continues to fledgle and fail with and flail about with this, they continuously are getting people cast in roles that clearly love the role and want to be in that role for time, and whether or not the studio screws it up or whatnot, like, I don't know. But Margot Robbie is, I love the versions of Harley Quinn, and I love seeing her evolve with it and evolving that character too, which is great. So
cool.
Yeah, that's it.
No, okay.
I got other stuff. I'm gonna skip it. It's all good stuff, but it's nothing new, nothing. Actually, I will say this: Fear Street. So far, the first, I think, 2 are out. I think the third one comes out this Friday.
Oh wow! Already? I knew it was weekly, but I thought it had only been 1 week already. So I guess.
Yeah. The first 2 are out. I haven't watched the second one yet. The first one though, really super enjoyed. Like,
I have heard that from a few people.
It is extremely. If you grew up with Goosebumps, this is Goosebumps without the kind of off the training wheels. So it's definitely Goosebumps for the young adult, but the older young adult.
Goosebumps with real blood.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Goosebumps for the kids that grew up with Goosebumps, because now they're all old.
Right. Yes. but this is like, your kids are, to me, right on the cusp of this is okay for them. This is good horror for them.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've been seeing good stuff, so I imagine I'll be checking those out at some point.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's good to hear because the whole idea, I was like, oh, this can go real bad or just.
I can tell you that I did not. I actually didn't dislike Sadie Sink in this, and I don't know if you remember, but I did not enjoy her in Stranger Things.
Right.
I liked her in this, so she was good.
Okay.
So,
did you do Night Comes for Us yet?
No.
Oh, okay. The whole reason. The reason for the season, man.
I know. I'm gonna do it for the last week. It's gonna be it'll be the last movie.
Let's save for the last. Okay, actually that would fit considering I know what the last one's gonna be for us. Okay. All right. So come back next week again for whatever we choose. And you can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com. I'm also in the process, actually I might be done with the process of rebranding the Zero Hit Points Instagram into Book Club for Movies. Haha, surprise. I can't wait for somebody to be like, when did I follow these guys? And what else did I do that with? Oh, the Facebook. So if you're still hanging around on those things, which I have been posting to, although mostly just links when the new shows come out, that might change to some extent. If you are on those, we are also on those Facebook and Twitter and Instagram things. So you can get at us any way you want.
Email is my favorite.
I was wondering. And if you have anything like suggestions about action movies, also let us know. We've got a few, 2 at least, maybe 3 weeks it turns out left. I'll figure that out by next week as well.
I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire on that one.
All right. Thank you. Because it probably will.
All right. Bye.